skyscrapers here in our beautiful center city to the outreaches of our neighborhoods in Philadelphia and in our suburbs. We've even heard from our great sports teams, the world champion Eagles and the first place Philadelphia Phillies, because they understand that we need to get people to and from the ballpark to see the winning ways of these teams. We've got 800,000 riders who rely on SEPTA each and every day, including 55,000 Philadelphia school students who are getting ready to go back to school on August the 25th. I want you to know that throughout my career, I've been one of those regular riders, commuting from the Philadelphia suburbs to law firm here in Center City in my past life. I have been on the trains. I've advocated for those who ride mass transit, and it is time to make sure that it is fully funded. We know that by fully funding SEPTA, we can do something that is necessary for our neighbors. And I would argue it's also common sense. Had a conversation with our 14-year-old son just the other day. He's off doing something else with his family. I'm here fighting to make sure we get a state budget done that funds our mass transit. And our son Ruben asked me, what's holding everything up? And I said, you know, a big piece of what's holding it up is there are some folks who don't believe in funding our buses and our trolleys and our trains and our subways. My 14-year-old looked up and just said, well, how are people supposed to get to work, Dad? He got it. He understood it. People instinctively understand that here in Philadelphia, and I would argue all across Pennsylvania. Mass transit is critical to get people to work, to get students where they need to go, to give parents more time with their children. As we gather right here in Philadelphia, across our Commonwealth, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis is meeting with leaders of what's called PRT. PRT is the equivalent of SEPTA in the Pittsburgh region. I should note that they are facing serious challenges as well. And the funding that I am fighting for, that these lawmakers are fighting for, these union leaders are fighting for, is funding that will go to supporting mass transit in each of our 67 counties. Don't let anybody tell you this is just a Philadelphia issue or a Pittsburgh issue. This is a Commonwealth of Pennsylvania issue, and we are working to resolve it together. This is for that mom that wants to get home to her kid. It's for that kid that wants to get to school. You know who else it's for? That bus driver that wants to be able to provide for their families. Understand that if SEPTA is forced to go forward with these rollbacks, with these cuts, with these eliminations of lines and service, that means that that bus driver that was driving a bus for 40 or 45 hours may now only be driving it for 30 or 35 hours. That's less food on the table for their families. That's less opportunity that they can give to their children. That's their livelihood that they're going to be robbed of if we do not come together with a solution. Now, I've been governor for 2.5 years, and each budget that I've put forth has had new, dedicated, recurring funding for mass transit in each of our 67 counties. Twice I've put that before the legislature, and twice the leadership in the Senate has failed to act. When they failed to act the first time, we were able to come up with a stopgap measure of about $80 million to keep our mass transit agencies alive. When they failed to act a second time, I used my authority as governor to flex funding, to take funding that would have gone to a road and bridge project and instead deploy those dollars to SEPTA, to our mass transit agencies. Why did I do that? Because I understand how critically important mass transit is. I also did it to give lawmakers more time to find common ground. Understand, I'm one of the only governors in the country, I think there's one or two others, with a divided legislature, a House led by Democrats, a Senate led by Republicans. It is hard work finding common ground, and we are working diligently at it. But it is time to act now. I want to thank Chairman Harris and the leadership team of the House of Representatives, Chairman Nielsen and others, who have passed funding for mass transit, not just SEPTA, mass transit across Pennsylvania, 4 separate times. 4 separate times. They have passed the budgets that I've put forth that would fully fund mass transit, that would make it so that bus driver could provide for her family, that would make it so that kid could get to school, that mom could get home to her children and get to work in the morning. They've done that 4 times. As I understand it, Chairman Harris is going to be leading these House Democrats back to Harrisburg to pass it for a 5th time to fully fund our mass transit. I would note that in addition to funding mass transit, their bill, my budget, also funds roads and bridges. We recognize that some of those moms across Pennsylvania don't get home to their kids on a SEPTA bus, but get home to their kids by going over a rural road or a rural bridge. We want them to be able to get home to their kids too. And so that is why we fully support funding roads, bridges, and mass transit. It makes good sense to be able to do all of that. We are past the point of short-term stopgap measures. We are past the point of a few months of fixes. It is time to have recurring long-term revenue for SEPTA and for the other mass transit agencies across Pennsylvania. And the time to act is now. Understand, and I know our Senate members who are here, our House members know because they were there, 187 days ago, I presented my state budget that fully funded mass transit along with roads and bridges. 187 days ago. And in that time, the Senate of Pennsylvania has been in session for a mere 25 days. The time to act is now. We are going to continue to work in a bipartisan manner. I have been working in person and on the phone multiple times a day with Leader Bradford, who is the negotiator for the House Democrats, and Leader Pittman, who is the negotiator for the Senate Republicans. We are working cordially. We are working respectfully. We understand that there are differences. And for my part as your governor, I am working hard to narrow those differences between the House majority Democrats and the Senate majority Republicans to fully fund mass transit and to make sure that we meet our obligations to our students, to our farmers, to our police officers, to everyone across Pennsylvania who rely on a state budget. So I want to thank all of these leaders for being here today. I want to thank you all for doing your part. We're going to keep working hard at this. We're going to put everything we have into this, but the time for action is now. I said earlier that I spent a great deal of time earlier this morning with the SEPTA leadership, including Scott Sauer, who's the general manager. Scott walked me through a number of changes SEPTA has made to be a far more efficient operation, to be able to do what they need to do to get people where they need to go, whether to a ball game or whether to work. I've got confidence in Scott's leadership. I'm grateful for the work that he and his team have been doing. And now I'd like to invite Scott to say a few words.
Thank you, Governor Shapiro, for your visit today, and thank you for continuing the fight on behalf of SEPTA's customers and public transit riders throughout the Commonwealth. I also want to thank the Philadelphia delegation and all the hard work that they have done on their end to keep this fight going. And I especially want to thank all the workers, the labor unions here that's behind me. They supply the workers that get this city moving and this region moving every single day, and thank you for that. We're now just a few days away from having to move forward with across-the-board service cuts that will impact all SEPTA's customers and every community that SEPTA serves. We know this is going to make it harder for our customers to get to work or to school or to doctor's appointments or to anywhere else they might need to go. The impact will not be limited just to SEPTA's customers. For tens of thousands of riders, SEPTA will no longer be a viable option. And many who can afford to drive will do so, adding to the congestion that's on our roadways already. Everyone will feel this. I want to be clear, we do not want to make these devastating changes. However, without a funding solution, we will have to advance a 20% service cut that starts on August 24th and an overall 45% cut this fiscal year. SEPTA knows it has to be part of the solution, and we've made great strides to do so. We've enacted an austerity plan that has resulted in more than $30 million in savings just over the last 8 months. In an economic climate that has seen persistent inflation, we've managed to lower our structural budget deficit from $240 million to just $213 million. We are committed to doing more, and we're embracing the accountability and oversight measures that the legislature is considering. At the same time, we're in the midst of growth on the system. For the fiscal year that just ended, ridership was up another 13%. That includes critical growth of 15% on our subways, improvements that we see as directly linked to historic reductions in crime on the system. I'm confident that SEPTA is on the rise, and all of us have embraced a customer-focused mission that puts safety and security, reliability, and service at the forefront. And if we can get the support that's needed to avoid these devastating cuts, we'll move swiftly to implement new initiatives that will enhance service across the system. It's my honor now to introduce Autumn Fingerhood, a mother who juggles 3 jobs. She and her daughter Olivia both rely on SEPTA to make it all work every day. And she is just one example of the thousands of riders that will have to endure these awful service cuts. Autumn?
Thank you, Governor Shapiro. Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Autumn Fingerhood. I live in Northeast Philadelphia in the Fox Chase section. I'm a hospitality worker and a proud member of Unite Here Local 274. I'm a single mother of 2 children. I have a 15-year-old daughter who is very excited to start 10th grade. She starts school on August 25th. Just a day after these cuts will go into effect if SEPTA does not receive its funding. Like hundreds of thousands of families in the Philadelphia region, we rely on SEPTA. My daughter takes the bus, which is currently slated to stop running later this month. She takes the bus to school. She takes the bus home. She takes the bus to her summer job. She takes the bus for other school activities, like staying late for her vocal class. She is also relying on the bus for a part-time job that is going to start later this fall. I have a question for the state Senate in Harrisburg. I have a question for my senator, Joe Picozzi. Joe claims he has been working to deliver crucial funding for SEPTA, yet here we are with no funding, and here we are with no Joe. How do you expect my daughter to get to school? She will have no bus. How do you expect her to participate in after-school activities while there is no bus service? I'm a single mom who works hard every single day to support my children. 3 jobs I work. I do not have others to rely on. I rely on SEPTA, and for me, SEPTA has been very reliable. I cannot be late for work or leave work, which lately seems to be what the Republicans have been doing. Who is going to drop my daughter off and pick her up? Am I supposed to quit my jobs? These are the dilemmas that just not my daughter, but hundreds of thousands of families are facing because they don't seem to care about the working people and our children. I work for Aramark at the sports complex in South Philadelphia. Next year, Philadelphia will be hosting several events, including the World Cup and All-Star Week. Without special services to the sports complex, how do you expect people to get to these events? How do you expect my coworkers to get to work who make these events possible? I've been asking and will continue to ask, who do these cuts serve? I know it's not the workers, I know it's not the taxpayers, and I know it's not my daughter. I know it's also not the students. The people who seem to benefit from these cuts are the billionaires, and we, the working people, are not billionaires. It seems that there has been a war declared on our community and the politicians who serve Harrisburg. Harrisburg, you need to wake up, you need to get it together, you need to do your job, and you need to fund SEPTA. We, the working people, do our job every day. It's time to do your job and put working families over billionaires. Prioritize all of us. I lead by example for my children. I lead by example for my coworkers. I lead by example for my community. I put them all first. Now it's time for you to lead by example. Show Pennsylvania that the workers, that our students, that our children come first. Do the jobs that you were elected to do. Pass the budget and fund SEPTA. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, if you have any questions, Scott and I will be happy to take them.
Governor,
Yes, Tom.
good afternoon. As you know, the Senate's coming back Tuesday. Now they've been recalled, and I figure you might have some inkling of what they're up to. Does this mean, should this be seen as a sign that something is about to get done, or?
Here's what I'll say. I'm not going to negotiate with Leader Bradford and Leader Pittman through the media, and I think we all respect one another enough to keep our conversations private. We understand the issues. I think they understand how important funding mass transit is to me, to Leader Bradford, and I think we all want to find a way to get a budget passed. As for what the Senate has planned, you'll have to ask Leader Pittman. I can tell you the time for short-term spending plans is long over and will not be entertained by me. We need to pass an annual budget, and that annual budget needs to fund mass transit. Lawmakers have very few enumerated responsibilities. One of them is to pass an annual budget. It's time for them to do that now.
Governor, are there any contingency plans that you're already working on with, for example, the school district of Philadelphia to get some additional transportation for some of the students if this goes on?
I'll let Scott address whatever SEPTA plans to, but here's the thing. I have tried to offer contingencies and short-term plans over the last 2 years. Not I've tried, I have, in an attempt to give lawmakers more time and space to find the opportunity for common ground for a long-term solution. The time for short-term fixes is over. We need a long-term solution. Anything else?
Is there any conversations about how this can impact people traveling from outside the state into Pennsylvania?
Let's just take a minute here. Is he okay?
No, right, sir?
No, we haven't. Sorry.
Just where he is. Is she okay? Is he okay? He's got some water.
We have Ben Camp and Tara and Bridget. We have so much medical personnel in the house now. It's nice.
Tom, we're going to proceed with questions, but if there's anything you need, you just let us know, okay? Okay, we appreciate you here. May I ask you to repeat your question?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about if there's been any conversations about how this can impact people traveling from outside the state. Like me, yesterday I took SEPTA to go to the Amtrak station, 30th Street station. People also, the PACO connection is literally right below us. I was wondering, have you had any conversations with outside state agencies or federal agencies that can impact?
But people rely on SEPTA who are from Philly, from the region, and from outside of our Commonwealth, who want to come here and enjoy the rich history, the great sports, and wonderful restaurants and bars that we have to offer. I would note that the leadership in Delaware, the state of Delaware, including the Republican leaders of the legislature, recently sent a letter to me, Chairman Harris, his colleagues in the Senate, making clear how important this was to Republicans in Delaware. This is an issue that affects people outside of this state as well as inside of the state. And as we prepare to be the center of the universe next year when we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the birth of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, an opportunity to celebrate our democracy with huge events from FIFA to Major League Baseball, All-Star Game, and so much more, as well as folks who just want to come here to Independence Hall and see how it all started. We need to make sure that our doors are open. And part of the ways that we make sure our doors are open is by having a functioning mass transit system that can get people around. I do want to take a minute and also thank Governor Meyer and Governor Murphy, who have weighed in on this. They understand just how critically important this is to Delaware and New Jersey, and I appreciate their leadership in this space.
Governor Shapiro, I believe it was a few weeks ago that the state appointed special prosecutor for SEPTA started prosecuting, I think, incidents that happened on SEPTA. I mean, any update there? How has that gone so far? And should it be extended beyond that? I think it's the deadline for that is what, December 2026? That's supposed to end. Again, updates on that. Has it gone thus far?
I don't know that I can provide you an update. I assume General Sunday can provide you with an update. I signed that into law roughly a year ago. I believe it expires at the end of next year.
Do you think it should be expanded beyond that, extended beyond that deadline?
Well, it's in place until the end of next year, and if that's an issue that's important to folks who are involved in the conversations, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Anything else? Sure.
So Senate President Pro Tem Kim Ward has suggested there's an immediate funding solution to this situation by using $2 billion in existing funds from the Pennsylvania Transit Trust Fund. Are you willing to consider that for this situation that we're in?
Well, look, I'm not going to negotiate the budget here in this setting. I'll ask Scott to respond to how they would be able to function by utilizing those dollars. Remember, those are dollars that are currently allocated to capital projects. So that's shovels in the ground working on a project. You'd have to take the shovels out of the ground in order to use those dollars to operate a bus or a train or a trolley. I'll let Scott speak more specifically about that.
Sure. Thanks, Governor. So the issue, as the governor kind of laid out, is those are capital dollars. Those are allocated for us to maintain our infrastructure, our vehicles, and all the things that go into that. And if we rob from one pot to give to the other, eventually we're having the same conversation, but now we're going to talk about shutting things down due to unsafe infrastructure. So we're talking about tracks that may not be safe for operating, bridges that may not be safe for operating. Those are much bigger problems that we certainly don't want to deal with. We are already short on capital dollars as it is. We have a $3 billion shortfall in our current capital program. We have close to a $10 billion state of good repair backlog for capital. So to take from that bucket to give to operating, you essentially are robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Governor, I know you said that you want to negotiate with the media. Are you confident that some sort of deal can be reached before this deadline Thursday?
Look, I'm working my heart out. I'm working my tail off to try and get this done. With everything I got, with everything my team's got, I've got a terrific group led by my Chief of Staff, Dana Fritz, who have not left the Capitol, for probably the last 45 days in a row. I have been locked in on this, and I will tell you also, so is Leader Pittman and so is Leader Bradford. I think we would all like to get this done. We live in really polarized times right now. The gulf between Democrats and Republicans has probably never been as wide as it is right now. My job is to try and narrow the differences between the Senate Republicans and the House Democrats. We've gotten that done over the last couple of years. I'm confident we'll get it done this time, but it's going to require us to all continue to work hard together and to understand that as part of working hard together, we can't lose sight of folks like that. We can't lose sight of the moms and the bus drivers and the kids that need a bus to get where they need to go. we can't lose sight of the fact that the decisions that we make every day in our state capital affect real people, affect real lives. I think about that every day. I am motivated to do this work, to look out for the good people of Pennsylvania, and I am doing it with every fiber of my being to get this done.
And Governor, is funding transit a deal breaker?
I'm going to need you to speak up.
Governor, is funding transit a deal breaker for you? Will you not sign a budget unless
I'm not going to get into
transit funds?
I'm not going to get into our budget strategy, nor am I going to negotiate the budget through the media. I'm going to negotiate it at the table with Leader Pittman and Leader Bradford.
We have time for one more question.
The House is in session today, and they're expecting to do another proposal out of the Transportation Committee. Is there any inclination of how that proposal is different than previously passed?
The House of Representatives has been outstanding on this issue, funding mass transit. Under the leadership of Chairman Harris, they have passed my budget to fund mass transit on 4 separate occasions. They'll be returning, I understand, to pass it for a 5th time, and I think it is important to note that it includes not just funding for mass transit, but also funding for roads and bridges. They understand the need to make sure that that mom can get to her kid, whether they're driving over a rural bridge or they're taking the L. However they are getting there, they want to make sure they can get there. And again, I know we're joined by many members of the House of Representatives who are here. They've stepped up. They've done their job. They're going to do it again, and hopefully that'll help move the ball down the field. Thank you all very much.